Hello guys! Welcome everyone back to an episode of Mando-Monday. This is the series where you guys ask the questions and I of course answer them. And that could be to do with anything related to Counter-Strike 2, Valve, future upcoming updates such as CS2's first operation, future update to the armory, or maybe it's new returning maps, modes, weapons, or features. If you guys have a question you want a shot at being answered next week's video, leave it down below this comment section as well as my many weekly community posts that I typically put out right before Mando-Monday comes out. This week's episode of Mando-Monday, we break down a large variety of different topics such as a current and new summer hype within CS2, that being with content but also the market, agents possibly returning back to CS2, cash arriving this summer, and of course what Valve plans to do with all the unreleased and leaked content that we've seen in game files over the last few months. Is that going to be drip fed into seasons? Maybe just season 3? Or is that going to release in a larger format such as an operation? I want to thank SkinsMonkey for sponsoring today's video. Are you bored of your current Counter-Strike loadout and want to trade it out for something different? SkinsMonkey has you covered. As a buying and trading marketplace, SkinsMonkey offers amazing deals and the fastest way to trade out your old skins for something new. By using my code Mando, you can get up to a free $5 by spending $100 or more, as well as you also get a 35% deposit bonus when topping up your balance. With SkinsMonkey's large variety of skins, they also offer daily, weekly, and monthly giveaways. If interested, the link will be at the top of the description down below. Now, firstly for today's video, I do want to give a quick PSA, since this is, I feel like, the time to do it, mainly based around Valve's new trading reverse update that they did just last week. And I feel like I've done a pretty good job of staying up to date of what's going on, how it's affecting the market, and what Steam's main objective is here, that being Valve's objective anyway. As of today, they're now going after Rust items. Up next is most likely going to be TF2, Dota 2. If Deadlock decides to have tradable items, which I don't see why they wouldn't, they're probably all going to be next. But this, as most of you guys know, has made a lot of people either pull out of CS entirely, that's even if they can, because now selling in the bulk, essentially cashing out, is very difficult to do unless you're using the Steam market. And maybe that's what Valve's main objective was here. But just like most updates, big decisions within CS that changed the game forever, the community, websites, and everyone within the space kind of just adapts over time. And that's essentially what's happened over the last couple of weeks. As a lot of people have pointed out within the CS space, such as Xmercy CS, a lot of things in terms of trading are kind of going back to how they used to be back in 2015, 2016 CS, where a lot of people aren't just cashing out entirely. One, they're either using trading websites where you can just trade your skin for something else or multiple others, or people are somewhat going back to the CS Lounge days. We're back in the day where we had CSGO Lounge where yes, you could bet on matches, but you could also post trades to the website where you could talk to other people to try and make a profit, or kind of go around the fact of just cashing out on a certain website and then, well, starting over from scratch. That's what people are kind of going back to now. As we learn about this more within the next few months to come, I'll be sure to update you guys as time goes on. After being a little over a week, how do you guys feel about the update? Do you still think it's as weird? And I guess the main question is, do you think Valve was really going after the API scams, or do you think there was more to it? Ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, let's hop into the questions for today's commentary. Our first question up here is from Video Power CS. He says, hey, do you think we'll see any big updates this summer? And long story short, yes, but it's also possible that season 3 is considered to be the big summer update already. I mean, we already had a big change to trading, a map pool change, but again, no new content. What's the most interesting from what I've seen from other people in the community is how Valve worded season 3, mainly as season 2 episode 1. Now this is obviously, yes, a Half-Life reference, but there could be more to it, meaning this could just be the initial launch and more content will be drip fed to us later over the next few months of the season. But if Valve went down that road for this format of this season, this would also be brand new. And what I mean by that is, at least when it comes to Valve, when they release something new, like a brand new season within CS2, from the 2 we've already seen, they're going to want to release everything they can when it first comes out to bring old players back and new players in. And there wasn't a whole lot of changes to really do that. Now, the reasoning behind the scenes could be that Valve just isn't ready to release what they have, so maybe they're waiting till season 4, maybe they're waiting for later on in this season until there's some really big downtime, player numbers drop even more to get those players back and more on top of that, not to mention make more income. But I think the hardest thing for most players to accept is that we know content is here, Valve has a plan, but the question is, when is it coming out? Now, I personally know for a fact that if it's not this summer, then the armory will receive changes and an update, since it's not been talked or bought much since, well, it was in the past, especially since its launch last October. Content through game files over the course of the last 3 months should also arrive too. And I think something we also have to not forget is Valve doesn't hate the player base because that's how they get their money. So I'm expecting a big investment made back to the players very soon. And a common theme you'll see in Valve, but also throughout today's video, is that there's a lot of moving parts behind the scenes that a lot of people don't even really know what's happening. Right now you have the trading update. Valve is also talking to pretty much every other company that has tradable items on Steam to kind of go with what CS2 just did. Not to mention doing it for their own games, probably rewriting code for how skins work within Steam, how trading works, and there's probably going to be more added to the trading reverse cards probably within the next few months. And that's with Steam, Valve as a whole, not just pinpointing just CS. And let me know what you guys think. In terms of a summer update, I really don't know if we'll be getting more than what we just saw. Now, our next question up here is from Sarcastic, and he says, when will Mirage get taken out of the map pool? And what updates to the map would you like to see? Now, before we discuss any changes, what I'd like to see to the map going forward, there's a couple of things I need to get across right now. Mirage is, and quite possibly has been, one of the longest standing maps within the CS pool that hasn't been removed. It's been here, I feel like, since day one, and hasn't really been altered all too much. The only changes we've seen to it is for better quality of life improvements and to make things a little bit more casual and easy for all players to access. But why? Well, players love it and actually play it. When played at majors, big events, or two really good teams in matchmaking will come against each other and play Mirage, it comes down to how good your aim is and who can outplay the other player, just by essentially raw skill. Everyone who's a decently skilled CS player has experience within the franchise, essentially knows what to do, but it's down to the better individual player at that point on, which is, in my opinion, why it's also played so much. Not to mention it's easy to learn, very basic, but in a very good way. You don't need to know every strat in the book, every smoke, flash, molly. You just need to be present, have decent aim, which that can take you extremely far on a map like Mirage. Now, because of that and its popularity over the last decade, that, in my opinion, is the sole reason it won't be removed anytime soon. Essentially, there's no point to remove it. Valve doesn't really get a benefit for it. In fact, I would like to see a remaster or revision of the map, just kind of having the Source 2 charm that we've seen with all the other maps within CS, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen anytime soon. But as most of you know, over the last few years that we have seen remasters within CS, those maps typically stay within the CS pool while they're being worked on in the new version if it comes out. And then, of course, it's just put back into the new map pool. Kind of like nothing happened in the first place. Now, in fact, what's most interesting about maps before they're pulled from the competitive map pool within CS is Valve tries almost everything before they leave. That being the maps. They switch layouts, switch the bomb sites, points of aim, so on and so forth. And when all else fails, they leave it and maybe come back to it just a few years later. Now, Mirage, aside from quality of life improvements, hasn't really seen any major changes like this over the last 10 years. And that's obviously because it's one of the most, if not the most, played map within CS. And at this point within the CS franchise, I actually think it's more iconic than Dust 2. And yeah, as this guy responds to this comment, it's one of the most popular maps in the pool, and it's probably not going to be leaving anytime soon. But as it stands for changes to the map, honestly, I only really want to see some big quality of life improvements, that being with the Source 2 charm. I don't really want the map changed all too much. It just feels nice, is nice, and doesn't really get boring. Because one of the biggest problems with remasters within the Counter-Strike franchise is people and the creators trying to innovate too much to the point where it, well, just feels like too much. You're going too far away from what made the map so great in the first place. If it ain't broke, then why would you fix it? Our next question up here for today's video is from Ambushed, and he says, will they bring back T-side agents from CSGO Office? So the anarchists from Office. We miss them, but them coming back as a default operator / agent will never happen. Here's why. Now, this is a question we get quite a bit on the channel in a bunch of different ways, a bunch of different formats, but I feel like it's important to reiterate this. Not just from Office, but all the forgotten agents from CS will never return as a default agent to the Counter-Strike franchise, at least within CS2. If Valve did this, it would have happened at the launch of CS2. Doing this now leaves no room for agents to be added to the game, which, despite monetizing something that was free, it's also just a sign of things in the world of CS growing and moving past what we previously had. Agents are now made to be purchased with operations and things alike, which, to be fair, we haven't had those in years. So what's the point of having that play out in the first place? What's Valve's future plan with agents? All I gotta say is, well, let's wait until the end of this year to say what's not possible in terms of CS content, because I have a weird feeling that we could be seeing the most amount of content added to CS that we've seen in a very long time within the Counter-Strike franchise. Long story short, Valve made the Phoenix Collection and SAS to be the default agents, and they won't be changing that anytime soon. Now, as it stands for anarchists, that being the T-side agents from Office, other forgotten agents from the Counter-Strike franchise, and new agents to come, those will be added later down the line at some point in time to be able to be purchased within the game. Now, if that'll be in the in-game store, the armory, and operation, maybe its own capsule or case, we have no idea. It's exactly that. We don't know. Until we know what Valve's future plan is in terms of content, we won't know how these are going to release, essentially until it's too late. But because of Valve going to 2 default operators and not switching it up, and the fact that we haven't had an operation since 2021, these things have skyrocketed up in price to the point where it's a little uncomfortable for many people to buy into them. And well, I'm kind of with you on that. Let me know what you guys think. How do you think Valve is going to release agents going forward, especially if we don't have operations anymore? Love to hear you guys' thoughts in the comments down below. This last one up is from Loginia. He says, do you think there's going to be an operation of some sorts, or maybe even the armory being updated soon? And of course, you have this question, what it's going to come with, the summer hype. These are all kind of similar, which if you guys want a detailed commentary about this sometime later down the line, let me know what you guys' thoughts are. But with that being said, let's begin. Now, an operation at this point in time, I actually think is more likely for several reasons. than any time that I think before, even with CS2's launch. But why is that? Well, at those other times, CS had other ideas in terms of content and needed to fix some very key aspects of the game before we went any further. But now that we've seen and had some time, not a lot, but some fixes have been very good, but also have taken place. Yes, we still need more, but CS also just needs to move forward. Because as most of you know, in the PC Gamer article that Valve did with them right before CS2 released, which was kind of odd to see because they don't really talk much about CS, let alone Valve in general to the public, they stated that Counter-Strike 2's plans are for them to really just fix the game and then add content going forward. Which, yes, we've seen fixes, but it hasn't been that many. This was their plan all within the last couple of years. Now that we're kind of moving past that, what's the future looking like? In the past, in terms of Counter-Strike over the last few years, we've seen too much going on with majors, events, new games coming out to the franchise, or the fact that the game needed other things done first that the devs, like I just mentioned, have stated themselves. Right now, we have room for new content, and not just room, we have a huge gap. But obviously that will and does come with complications, and that's what we have currently in the game right now. That mainly being the armory, which that is not leaving anytime soon. Based off what we know is coming to CS2 and what's currently needed, like a Mirage Remaster, Cache, which Valve did buy. We know Valve is working on Cobblestone, the Ignite maps, old maps and modes returning, such as, well, retakes, co-op style missions, and that's really just the beginning of what we know for sure is coming to CS2, and we have seen through game files. That's just within the last few months. And a big problem with that is that's a lot of content for Valve to have made spread out over the next few months or to do nothing with. That's paid time that they just wasted then, which I don't think they're going to waste any more of it. Essentially what it comes down to is the biggest problem here is how Valve is going to release all of this content all at once, which I don't think is going to happen. That's unless we had some sort of operation. But because operations release with a boatload of skins, the complications with that is going to be against the armory. You can't have the armory, active duty drop pool cases, a major with stickers going on, and the operation with new collections releasing and being available all at the exact same time. Because something's always going to be undermined, and as we know and have seen over the last 2 to really 4 years within CS, Valve likes to spread out content and spread it out really nice, essentially to maximize profits. On one hand, we can get new content, but if it's too much at once, players will be overloaded, which is the exact same reason we didn't get an operation with CS2's original launch. As it stands for the armory, it will have soon been a year that players have been banned because of the exploits within the armory, not to mention players and skin enthusiasts want something new to look at, and they also want more of an incentive to get on and play for something that's not old and slowly becoming not as rare as it used to be. I think at this point, CS would very much benefit from an operation releasing, or something along the lines of that. Maybe they don't want to call it an operation anymore. Okay, that's fine. Have co-op missions, the amount of content you would have with an operation, then add it to the game, and the skin side of things, you just update the armory, boom, it's all together, problem solved. But it comes down to the question of if Valve's going to do that or not. Now let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's episode of Mando Monday. I'll catch you in the next one. Stay positive, sexy. I'm out, guys. Peace.